better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
All right, you're watching Nedbank Business Watch. It's exactly 2 p.m. Central African time. Thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday afternoon. We hope that you are going to enjoy the show. My name is Fiso Ngumalo. Happy to be your host with Mpombe. Good, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right. Can't complain.
I'm great. Thank you for tuning in. Our viewers do watch us on our YouTube page. We are at Eswatini TV and we are on DSTV as well, channel 286. Good afternoon and welcome to Business Watch. Buying a home is one of the biggest and most meaningful investments you'll ever make, and it should remain a top priority for all Eswatini, especially if you're currently renting, whether it's for residential or business purposes. Nedbank Eswatini understands the importance of owning a place you can truly call your own. They offer flexible financing solutions for a variety of property types, whether it's fully built freestanding home or a vacant plot, including agricultural land. Busi Lamini, sales consultant, will walk us through the steps of applying for a home loan today. Do stay tuned for that interview.
All right, entrepreneurship, it is touted as the engine that will drive down youth unemployment. But are we building a runway or simply cheering from the sidelines? Well, this afternoon we speak to Dumisani Simelane. He is the head of programs at the Eswatini National Youth Council. We want to examine the real weight of policies that are said to support youth-led businesses. And of course, later, it was designed to give our exporters a cushion, but the Export Credit Guarantee Scheme is barely being used despite covering up to 90% of key loans. So what's going wrong? Sanel Esbia, our in-house economist, he will join us to explore the implications of this low uptake on the broader economy. Two conversations, one underlying question. Are our frameworks and our finance systems truly aligning with national goals? You are in the right place here on Nedbank Business Watch, because we explore all the possible implications as well as all the necessary answers as we continue to examine what we need to do. It's 2 minutes after 2. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch.
Yeah, let's go.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Watch, powered by Nedbank Eswatini, and now for our business news.
Our first story, small and medium enterprises, SMEs in Eswatini, are calling on the central bank to regulate the additional interest rates that commercial banks charge above the official prime rate that is stipulated. The president of the Business Federation of Eswatini, Thulisile Dladla, emphasized the need for the central bank to introduce a cap on these extra charges to protect borrowers from excessive repayment amounts. Speaking at a United Nations development program where both banking and non-banking financial institutions both shared their views on the regulations of the Citizens Economic Empowerment Act, Dladla highlighted that many Emaswati end up paying significantly more than they originally borrowed due to the unchecked additional interest rate hikes. We have a story.
The president of the Business Federation of Eswatini has called for the introduction of a legal ceiling on the additional charges banks impose on top of interest rates set by the Central Bank of Eswatini. Tulisile Dladla argues that many small and medium enterprises are struggling to stay afloat due to high costs associated with borrowing, especially the extra charges added by banks beyond the prime rate. She emphasized that some business owners are paying additional charges as high as 35% above the prime rate because they are considered high-risk borrowers. According to her, this practice is unsustainable for small and medium enterprises and discourages growth and entrepreneurship.
Well, I wanted to know, do you actually follow or regulate in maximum that could be charged by the banks from the central bank discount rate? Bese bona bafaka prime ba-add a lot of money nala prime. Kulo prime, is there a ceiling? If the discount rate is ceiling yenu, mhlawumbe could be prime plus 1 year because like you had spoken, it goes above even more prime plus 30 kulo. You find that you service the interest for the rest of your life. Kuthiwa uneskweleti say interest kakhulu kwedlula leskweleti sakho.
Responding to these concerns, Deputy Governor Felicia Kunene acknowledged that while there is currently no formal regulation setting a maximum on interest markups, banks are required to submit their interest rate structures to the central bank, including any additions to the prime rate. She explained that the central bank monitors interest rates closely and banks must justify any interest rate increases. She further noted that in the case of loans, some fees, such as authorizations, are regulated to prevent excessive charges. She reiterated that interest rates remain risk-based, meaning that each client is assessed individually, leading to higher rates for clients considered more risky and lower ones for those deemed low risk.
Banks are compelled by such a guideline. We introduced this, I think 5, 6, 7 years ago. They introduced their pricing list, and we go through each line, and they have to justify why they are changing. But we control maybe the origination fees, the whatever. Interest rate, then it is supposed to be risk-based. Ideally, fancy uma ungena babu assess according to your risk premium. But we have engaged them. Mobasi sende a survey. We're doing a study for financial inclusion, just looking at the range in my interest rates.
According to the Deputy Governor, the Export Guarantee Scheme has been significantly underutilized. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Langamandla, Fuminko Sinzinisa and Derek Msibi, Mbabane.
Small and medium enterprises are increasingly struggling to pay their loans, prompting financial institutions to advocate for reforms in laws and policies to better support these businesses. Deputy Governor Felicia Kunene emphasized the urgent need for further action to address the situation. Her sentiments were echoed by the Chief Executive Officer of the Eswatini Financial Services Regulatory Authority, Ncamiso Njalinjali, who noted that existing measures remain inadequate. Various financial institutions are currently making formal submissions to the Citizen Economic Empowerment Act regulations, calling for more inclusive and flexible frameworks that would allow SMEs to thrive amid economic challenges.
Deputy Governor Felicia Kunene has raised a concern over the continued rise in non-performing loans, noting that a significant number of borrowers are defaulting on their payments. She highlighted that some of the current credit frameworks are structured in ways that inadvertently exclude small and medium enterprises, making access to finance even more difficult for them.
NPLs and unfortunately, when you split it by gender, men don't pay. some of the frameworks that we're using were structured to exclude, but we don't consciously think about it. So when you walk in, civil challenge 50% risk. So as ukhuluma siya-add. By the time uphuma, sikunike interest rate ya prime plus 35. Whereas uma kufika lomnye umuntu angena uqala ku-0. Yabo, or uqala negative, less risky. I by the time I come to the prime plus 3. So if you are already at prime plus 35, chances of you defaulting are just as high. So we need to challenge ourselves, just shake the models. We have biases, and I'm saying that because I have evidence. I've once shared it with you. We did a study, and it came out to be true. Those Lama biases are set from before BE.
The chief executive of the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, Ncamiso Njalinjali, added that there needs to be thorough checks on whether lending institutions are operating in an environment that genuinely supports inclusive and fair lending practices.
The institutions, Lama lenders, are they operating in a space where encourage growth?
Beauty Mavuso, credit manager at Nedbank, encouraged small and medium enterprises to connect with support institutions like SEDCO to ensure they have all the correct documentation and well-prepared business plans before applying for loans. She says preparation is key.
Before nje ucabange kuyakhona ebhange funa uye vele leti takho tilungile registration awenti inkampani konke sekumaphepha akho aphelele bo-South African Corporation Trading License nabo bonke, and futhi nale business plan yakho ibe yendiwe kahle, because amabhange sifike siyabuka lapha ukuthi uyathi lathola lokhu nalokhu uyathi ayisoka sekwenta-ke lokho sesiyakujikisa sesihamba olungisa.
The implementation of the regulations under the Citizen Economic Empowerment Act is expected to ensure that indigenous Emaswati benefit more and fully from local projects, which will in turn boost local enterprise development and increase access to financing opportunities. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Langamandla, Fuminkosi Nzinisa and Derek Msibi, Mbabane.
And that's it for our business news. Thank you for staying with us. It's 12 minutes after 12. Don't go anywhere.
After the break, we speak to Dumisani Similani from the Eswatini National Youth Council as we examine why the higher unemployment rate that sits on the youth demographic is the case, and if the frameworks that are put in place are necessarily aligning with solving the situations that continue to prevail on the ground.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
14 minutes after 2 sichubeka nehlelo lethu iNedbank Business Watch livela kangwane ke liyachubeka nekwekuthi likhuthade bosomabhizinisi labancane kuthi basukume bakhone kukhonza njengoba nje libhekene nensaya lenkulu yekubade kahle kwemathuba emsebenzi lekubuya ngathi ke kunenkakhulu kubo bantfu labasha kunemibuto ke ukuthi ingabe le mithetho ema regulations nema frameworks la khona engabe vele ayabavumela bantfu labasha kuthi bakhone lokusungula noma ke lokuqala lawo mabhizinisi lokho nekuthi ngabe yini vele lento wako kusekela bona bantfu labasha sinadumisana simelane ke lobukeke tinhlelo lophethe nje tinhlelo lapha eSwatini National Youth Council sitaxoxisana naye kabanti ngekuthi engabe vele lemithetho lekhona yekusekela bona bantfu labasha basenda imisebenzi yabo yokuqala emabhizinisi nangemambala yenda lokho lokufanele sikuvusele mnguni sikwamukele ehlelweni.
Sabonga kakhulu Sifiso siyavusela nabukela emakhaya kakhulu abantu labasha.
Siqale ngale vision ivision lenkulu kakhulu lena njoba nje livela kangwane libhekene na insaya lenkulu kubade kwamathuba emsebenzi kubantu labasha kakhulu sikukhanza kuba nema downstream effects lamabi kakhulu ngako ke lokho kuvele kuvalidate lo msebenzi wenu ukuthi umcoka kangakanani masikhuluma ngeYouth Entrepreneurship lapha even la kangwane njenge strategy noma ke umkhombandlela lo tasisita kakhulu ukuthi silwise iunemployment engabe vele ngumaphi lawo magoli lawo leningathi nine noma sithi nje ama timelines lenawo lenisebenza ngawo.
Sabonga kakhulu Sifiso mhlambe kumcoka ukuthi umuntu aqale ekuthenini inhlitiyo yayo ingwenyama uma uqala ubuka indlela leyi articulate ngayo ama issues abantu labasha netinzaba tingabi nemathuba emsebenzi uyabona ukuthi inekukhathateka lesikwendako namhla we are fulfilling legoli noma ke inhlitiyo yayo ingwenyama yokuthi emathuba emsebenzi abanzele bonke bantfu labasha baseSwatini kuyo yonke imikhakha tifundza dotini eSwatini. Uma ubuka ukuthi in the last 2 years we have had a very sharp index in terms of youth unemployment la beme khona ku 58%. Uma ubuka ukuthi abantu labasha ba between the ages of 15 and 34 now uyabona ukuthi if bang 71% and 56% of those ba affectekile tinzabeni ti unemployment uyabona ukuthi tinzaba takhona tinkulu kakhulu. Sibukile ukuthi in the next 3 years siyehlise kakhulu ngendlela lemcoka kakhulu inzaba ukuthi abantu labasha baweswele umsebenzi sibekile in place we have flagship programs lafaka ekhathi inzaba yema artisans kuthi kulama areas nema sectors lawo sifuna kwenyusa one lisasasa lebantu labasha laba participate kuma artisan programs. Number 2 siphinze senyuse lisasasa lebantu labasha labata uparticipate etinzabeni tekhicita kudla eSwatini kuze ukuthi sikhona ukutheklisha tinzaba te 1 food safety and security. Number 2 sibe nama commercial farmers lamancane ezilivela seSwatini.
Ngibhala phasi nje letiluba loti balako sinza inzaba lemcoka kakhulu yemakhono artisans participatory usinza inzaba lematima kakhulu ye food manufacturing but lokukhulu kakhulu kulo food manufacturing utsinza inzaba yokulokudla lokukhona lapha even njoba vele sinayo insaya lenye lenkulu ye food security nekuthi lokudla kufuna kube safe nyalo kunabo foot and mouth disease ngiyabona ukuthi kuyathelelana lapho. Ngiyafuna lokubuta lama support structures ngoba kunana ibuzzword lesihlale siva ukuthi kunema support structures engabe abukeka kanjani lama support structures empilweni in real life from outside of the theory nasiteka lenzaba.
Now lokuba mcoka uma ukhulumisa tinzaba letinjena Sifiso ubuka imikhakha lembalo. One kumcoka kubuka ipolicy ukuthi lendlela eformulatheka ipolicy is it supportive enough to enhance the ecosystem ye development kubantu labasha. Uma ubuka ke ukuthi thine nje one of our pillars akhuluma ngayo inzaba food nutrition and safety ukuthi ngiletinye tinzaba lefuna sikhulumise kuze ukuthi sikhone kunyusa interest abantu labasha labafuna ukuparticipate noma ke ama agripreneurs nangabe ngelimi lelikanjalo. Now siyabona ukuthi environment is enabling eSwatini. Uhulumende usukumile uyayibhebhetela inzabe ukuthi abantu labasha basonzele agriculture and as a result kune project lenkulu kakhulu la initiate hulumende le target abantu labasha labang 30,000 letter which will kick off around November. Inzaba le supportwa ngu World Bank. Now le project lena itabe ibuke primarily bantu labasha labafuna kusukumisa labataba bantu labasha labatawukhicita kudla eSwatini. Now ibuke le project lena it's in the next 5 years kufanele ukuthi sikhone kudondla njengelive siphinze futhi sikhona ku-exporta umkhicito wethu. Now lokho kudlala lichaza lelimcoka kakhulu nawubuka tindzaba tabo sustainable development and creating sustainable livelihoods kubantu labasha lapho khona batawuthola ithuba lokuthi bakhe umsebenzi baphinze futhi badvonse nabozwaka bokuthi bakhone nabo kwakho umsebenzi bakhone ukuphilisa.
Yeah. Uteka indzaba lematima kakhulu indzaba yepolice imitsetfo lekhona umbuto lwayo ube mkhulu kakhulu ukuthi engabe leyo mitsetfo leyo njengoba siyibonile leminye imitsetfo ukhanze ukuthi ikhona yona ibekiwe kodwa ayisiye umngane walomvu lokudzingako leyo mitsetfo loyo ngese ngathi it's not necessarily a friendly to the people that require that policy that work under that policy framework, but it is rather a foe. Engabe lena ungasho yini ukuthi nangemambala ingumngani kulabantu labasha? That's one. Number two, le access to capital ngifuna singene kuyo ngoba kude lokungasebenzeka nakude leto timbasha liphupho nje nakuliphupho kungana timbasha akusilo liphupho. Engabe ikhona yini yona?
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Sifiso, ngicabanga ukuthi kumcoka lo lokubudaka. Angikube ngasobala ukuthi uma sikhuluma ngama programs e-youth lesiwaranako thini la supporting lama policies lesikhuluma ngawo are youth centric. Now these are policies and programs that have been extensively influenced by young people through extensive consultation with young people.
Okay.
Now konke lesikwenda based emanizi nasikhuluma nje ukuthi kunema gaps la ku programming sikhuluma ukuthi uma siletha a response program, it has been extensively informed by the recipients and the beneficiaries themselves. Akahlali nje ama technocrats abuka ukuthi ingathi kunema gaps lana in terms of participation yabantu labasha in the economy, but we have consulted and we continue to consult young people so that ema programs ethu are shaping abantu labasha. Kwesibili, Hulumende has played a very key role in ensuring the availability of resources that young people can tap into. Long khuluma nje kuno youth enterprise and revolving fund. Lokuyi environment where young people can tap in terms of accessing resources. Kunemali through the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs. Uma ubuka nje kune flagship program ndakukhuluma ngayo kafishane le support artisans. Those are resources that have been made available by the government of Eswatini. Uma uya Eswatini Bank kunemali. The last time nang check there was 45 million that was put aside for young people to tap into. And good ngcabekelwana uma uya ka FinCorp kunemali lapho yebantu labasha that government has made provision for young people to tap into. Uma uya ka JA there are programs build a capacity man labasha in terms of financial literacy. Uma uya ka SEDCO there are mentorship programs that have been put in place la pepetela ukuthi ku supporteke abantu labasha. Uma uya ka enactors there's an opportunity where young people laba complete kuma tertiary institutions programs labanga tap into where it gives them an opportunity to they can come up with thumping ideas and thrive in those ideas. 100%. Now, uma ubuka le environment lenkhuluma ngayo so you can easily realize ukuthi government has come to the party.
100%. Perhaps as a parting shot utangihlebela ukuthi engabe kulolu hlelo la World Bank lolutanga November engabe khona kulungiswa ibasha letingakanani noma tisatekwe etafuleni.
There's 500 million emalangeni that has been made available
for 30,000
targeting 30,000 young people.
Sema kakhulu kukhumbuta nje ukuthi bantu labasha nalapha ka Regional Development Fund abakavaleleki kuto tonke letinhlelo la satibalile umnguni lana. I'm particularly excited about layer 500 million leta nga November njoba itargethe bantu labasha labang 30,000 ikakhulu etindzabeni tekudla la khona sitakukhicita khona lapha ekhaya sibe secure siphinze sikhona nekuthengisana kulamanye emave. Ngidumisani Simelane, Head of Programs Eswatini National Youth Council. Sibahloleke imakethe sita ubuya sixoxisane na Nedbank Eswatini siteke indzaba yema home loans.
right, welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Watch, powered by Nedbank Eswatini. Thank you for staying with us. Today we're talking about home loans. This is a very important and crucial investment for those that want to build their homes, extend or do renovations. To tell us more, we're joined by sales consultant at Nedbank, Busi Dlamini. Busi, a very good afternoon. Thank you for coming through to Nedbank Business Watch. I'm quite interested in this topic today. So yes, today we're talking about home loans. To apply for a home loan at Nedbank, what is the first step? You know, we get a lot. I'm sure you get a lot of people that want home loans. Who do you finance?
Good afternoon, Dudy. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. Thank you for having us. We are so excited to be here to talk about our product, the home loan. At Nedbank, we understand that it's important and a meaningful investment for a Maswati to own property, whether it's a title deed or a rural area. We are happy to finance our customers so they can come to us, present to us their pay slips, and of course, usually we look at the first step is to open a current account, and you have your salary deposited at Nedbank.
I mean, it's a huge step for anyone wanting to build a home or renovate or even extend. And I presume that as Nedbank, you would want to look into that person, because financing someone is no joke. You know, handing over a person a lump sum of money is no joke. Do you do your investigations? Do you look into that person, their credit, ability, before granting that person the home loan?
Oh, yes, of course. The first step is that the customer will come to us. First of all, the customer is employed. He has a pay slip, and they come to us. We look at the affordability. When the affordability is in place, now we check ITC checks to see if the customer is credit worthy. That's the first step. So, and then we ask the customer to present to us 3 quotations. That's, for instance, where the customer already has a plot and they want to develop the plot. Okay. 3 quotations from credible builders in Eswatini, and I must mention that the builders must be registered with CIC. So what happens, we don't choose for the customer which quotation to go with. It's up to the customer. All we do is we just take the one that they say they want to go with, this one, and after the affordability has been assessed and everything is approved by our credit department, then the process will start.
And I'm sure you're all about offering flexible financing solutions at Nedbank for your customers. So just take us through step by step, the difference between financing someone that wants to build on a title deed, urban area, or at Swazi Nation land.
Okay, Lulu, let me start with someone who wants to build in an urban area. The first step is that you will come to us. Maybe you already have the plot, or maybe let me say you don't have the plot yet. You want Nedbank to help you finance the plot. After looking and assessing the affordability, and we're happy to do the application for you. We can give our flexible finance terms means that you can finance your property up to 25 years. Of course, that will depend on how old you are at the moment. For instance, we know that in Eswatini, the retirement age is 60 years. So if you are, for instance, 25 years of age, you can still qualify for 25 years. But for instance, if you are already 40 years of age, then you can finance only for 20 years. That will depend entirely on what the calculations give us. So we go step by step with you to assess the affordability first. Okay. So say now the property is in your name, or you want to buy the property and further the constructions. That's where then we will say, give us an approved plans. It's all up to you. It's your own house, your dream house. You know how you want it to be. So you will give us the approved plans from that town that the property is under. After that, you will give us 3 quotations from approved local builders. Okay. Then the next step will be, as already in the background, we already done the credit checks and everything is in good place. When the process starts, it's not up to Nedbank when the property will be finished, but what we do know is that the property shouldn't take a lot of time. Like, for instance, 6 months, the property is still being built. So that's where that's why the contractor must be an approved one, someone who knows what they are doing, right?
So there's a time frame.
There is a time frame, yes. It shouldn't take a lot of time. But say everything is touching base, everything is fine, then each time the contractor is going to site to start and building, they will come to us after that with claims that this is what they've done. Let me not forget one important step, which is there's an evaluation that needs to be done. The builder will go and build and come to us and say, this is what I've done, but there must be a certificate from the evaluator that this is the works that have been done already. So that's where we pay. And we don't pay to the customer, we pay to the builder per the works done.
Okay, so let's talk about insurance, insuring the house. Of course, nowadays there's natural disasters like hailstorm, fire, fire damages due to strong winds. What's the arrangement with providing the customer with insurance?
Yes, thank you, Lulu. Okay, one of the requirements for our home loan finance is that when a house is completed, it must have the insurances in place. We have insurance houses in Eswatini that we use to help you get that insurance that is required. It will cover your house from fires, from hailstorms, from all the like as you have mentioned. So you know that the customer has a peace of mind. Should anything happen, the insurance is in place.
Okay, that's perfect. Actually, that's great. So, do you recommend, as Nedbank, do you recommend that your customers take out life cover with their home loan?
Oh yes, of course. Either you have your own life policy that is not seeded, we can use that as security, or you take one that is provided by Nedbank. That is established in the beginning, so that the customer knows that after the property has been done, there should be insurance in place. So that's basically one of our securities that should be in place for all our products, whether it's rural home loan or the urban home loan.
So how is that a benefit to the customer, because, some people may be reluctant because, they're forking out different monies now, insurance, life cover, the loan. I think it just piles up for the customer. So I think you can just explain that. How is it beneficial to them?
Well, it is very beneficial to the customer, and all our customers are excited for it because, look, you don't want to purchase a property, you don't want to build a property, and when you die, that's the end of it. The bank takes the property. Of course, also the bank is not in the business of financing to retake again. It's in the business of financing to help our customers and their generation. So our customers are happy for that because they know if one of them passes away, they know that the insurance will come in to settle the debts. And also, one important thing is that we don't use your pension to cover a credit life or insurance for death, because we know that pension is solely used for you, for your children, or for your family when you are no longer existing.
Okay. So I think you mentioned something about you get 10 years when you're constructing a house on SNL, and 25 years if you're in an urban area. For instance, if I'm 50 years old, do you finance that person if they have 10 years remaining to retirement?
Okay,
how does that work?
Moving on to our Swazi Nation land or rural home loan, we finance our customers up to 10 years. What we look at there is that our customers is permanent and pensionable. So we usually have schemes, or maybe I should say relationship with some companies where you find that they say you can seed their pension for our employees so that they can be able to afford land in rural areas. So there, for instance, when the customer is 50 years, as you mentioned, the regulator does not allow us to take the pension up to the last day of your working age. So we need, if you already have 10 years left to retirement, we have to reduce that to 8 years, the finance, because the 2 years we should not cover finance up to the last day of retirement. So for a 50-year-old, we will finance 8 years. And for someone who's maybe 20 or 30 years, then they will get the full 10 years.
All right. So with the renovations and extensions of homes, do you also finance a farmer that wants to probably renovate the agricultural land, or improve the agriculture, develop the agricultural land? Or it's just for constructing a home?
For renovations, yes, we do finance. Perhaps the house or the home is already paid off or is still under financed by the bank. There is an option that we get an evaluation report that will tell us what is the value of the property at the moment. And then if you want to refinance or re-advance for a purpose, maybe you want to do renovations, as you put it, you will give us quotations for that renovation work that you want to do, because obviously that will improve the state of the house as it is at the moment. So we are happy to finance that for our customers and to help them. There, again, it will depend on the affordability. Say, for instance, the property is valued at 1,800,000, and your debt is at 1,100,000, for instance, and you want a finance up to 1.5 million. It will, for us, we will look at what is it that you want to do, and what is the value. Does the value allow us to re-advance? So if it does allow us to re-advance, we are happy to do it for you.
Okay. Repayment terms, yes, you did say it's 10 years and 25 years. So how do you calculate? Do you use that particular customer's pay slip? How do you calculate the money that the client needs to pay back?
We have quotations. We do quotation for you as a customer when we start the process. We have a key fact statement, which will tell us that we input how many years that you will be financed the property and how much do you earn. That affordability test will tell us if you can get that million or you can get that 2 million that you want. If it says less, we just follow it through and through. With you, of course, we agree that, okay, this is what it says we should go for, and then we go for that amount.
All right,
so the affordability is calculated pre-application stage.
All right, remind us again, what do you need to get started?
First of all, we look at customers who are employed, and we need you to come to a Nedbank and open a current account, deposit your salary into a Nedbank account. That doesn't mean you have to wait for maybe 3 months before you can apply, of course. We still look at your previous bank statements, because what we look at consistency of your salary. And then now that you are with Nedbank, you are ours now.
Oh, you're saying new customers are also eligible to apply?
New customers are also eligible, yes.
Okay.
Yes, of course. So once you have opened their current account, your salary is being deposited with us. Now we look at, when we want to finance, we're starting the finance application. We want your ID, your pay slip, and your confirmation letter from employer. That is proof of income. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's all that's needed.
That's all that's needed.
All right.
ID, proof of income, and proof of residence. And of course, other stuff will be what the documents that support the property that you want to buy. For instance, if it's a plot, we want a deed of sale, we want evaluation report for that property. If it's an already built house, we still want evaluation report and the deed of sale. Right. And if you want to build, now we want 3 quotations. We want evaluation report to say how much is needed for this property to be completed.
Okay.
Yes, over and above the others that I've just mentioned.
All right, well, thank you so much, Busi. How do your customers get in touch with you for more details on the home loans?
For more details on the home loans, customers can contact us on our help desk information, which is 3278 1999.
All right.
3278 1999.
Well, thank you so much. Well, there you have it, Maswati Lamahle. If you want to build, extend, renovate your home either on SNL or on as an urban area, do contact Nedbank Eswatini, visit their branches, talk to them or interact with them on their social media pages for more details on their home loans. Let's go for another break. Sabia Karamach.
Right, welcome back. We get into our live interview now. The Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, Felicia Kunene, has said there is a very low uptake in the Export Credit Guarantee Scheme, a program that covers up to 90% of pre- and post-shipment export loans up to 3.3 million emalangeni to support SMEs exporters. We want to ask why this is the case. What does this mean for the economy? As we are joined by Sanel via our video link. He's our economist and he joins us this afternoon. Sanele, pleasure having you on the program. Good afternoon to you. Perhaps we want to start, I would have loved to start perhaps for the benefit of someone who really doesn't know what the Export Credit Guarantee Scheme really is and what its intended purpose in supporting SME exporters is. But perhaps that is self-explanatory. We want to understand these numbers that are quite frankly sobering. Deputy Governor Felicia Kunene says the uptake is low. What do you think are the possible reasons for this hesitation from exporters?
Good afternoon, Mr. Nxumalo, and good afternoon to the viewer. I thank you for having me. So when we're looking at this issue, Mr. Nxumalo, it might not necessarily be an issue of hesitation. Rather, to me, it seems to be an issue of capacity. Do we have exporters with the right capacity to actually to export within the SME sector? So what this signals to me, Mr. Nxumalo, is the fact that even though we have a program that seeks to bridge the access to finance barrier in terms of exporting, but what we do have essentially is there are non-access to finance barriers that we still have to deal with. We need to get the SMEs to be export ready, and being export ready, Mr. Nxumalo, is not only an issue of access to finance, but it's an issue of standards. It's an issue of health requirements or phytosanitary health requirements, the standards to where exporting, and also the issue of quality. And over and above, Mr. Nxumalo, it's an issue of competitiveness. So what we need to do is we need to train our SMEs to know the right standards that one needs in order to have a product that can enter, say, the European market or the US market or the Chinese market, because there are different standards which they would accept for their export and the export capacity. And then we also need to be in a position to be able to ensure that we have what we call a competitive advantage, because when you're taking an export into the international markets, it has to now compete with those international products, and there is quite a number of issues to consider there. So we need to do a bit more than assisting the exporter to export, but we need to also get the SME to be export ready, Mr. Nxumalo, and that takes more than just creating an export guarantee scheme. It requires a holistic business development intervention where we work with the exporter with the SME hand in hand to get them to a point where they can have a product that is ready for the international market.
Okay, I'm noting that you speak of the core hurdles as standards. You mentioned obviously safety, quality, and competitiveness. And I suppose that doesn't only raise an uncomfortable question, but a far more uncomfortable question than the previous one. Are we investing in export schemes before we've adequately invested in export readiness? I suppose that is what you are alluding to. And what does that say about our sequencing of economic priorities? How do we then fix that?
So what we need to do, Mr. Ngumalo, and I think His Majesty did allude to this during, the opening of Parliament, where, he did highlight that we need to have SETCO, working through right to the very low levels. You need to have APA being able to work right through to the low levels, because at times you need the right information to know what you need to sell to the international market. And we need to get export ready. So we do need to deal with our supply chain and our internal production systems to get us to a point where we are in a position to penetrate international markets. So I do believe that if we can get that part right, then you will see a bit of an uptake in the export guarantee scheme once we have businesses that are export ready, businesses that are ready to penetrate international markets. So another thing that we might need to do, Mr. Ngumalo, is those linkages. You might find that a number of SMEs are not even aware of quite a number of these export destinations where there is a need and those niche markets. And other initiatives, Mr. Ngumalo, that we've seen, I mean, we know that the government is in the process of building those cold room storage facilities right at KM3 International and quite a number of other initiatives that we're doing. So I do believe that is in a part of getting the kingdom export ready. Before we can then start now saying we're exporting, we need to make sure that the commodity can get there in the right standard and in the right quality that the international market requires, Mr. Ngumalo. And we need to invest in our laboratory facilities and our standards facilities to ensure that we are able to comply and we're able to get the certifications that are needed for international markets.
Yeah, I truly agree with you in terms of the linkages assertion, but you mentioned something that was also articulated by His Majesty the King, that SETCO and APA are critical actors at the foundation, and that they should work at a granular level as they are currently structured and resourced and perhaps incentivized to operate that way. I want to ask, what needs to change institutionally for that proposal that was clearly highlighted at the highest level by His Majesty the King to go beyond the theory now?
So I think what we need to do as a kingdom, Mr. Ngumalo, number one is to streamline the number of initiatives that we have, because you do know that at one level we have SETCO, and when you do drill down to it, you'll find that you have the Youth Enterprise Fund also doing something, the different funds are also doing something, trying to play that role, that catalytic role. So if we were to streamline all of those and leave probably SETCO to focus on the business development, and then the Youth Enterprise Fund comes in terms of financing, the RDF comes in terms of financing, and these different funds come in terms of financing, then we would have a bit more of a streamlined process. Over and above, then, Mr. Ngumalo, we need to resource SETCO and APA to be in a position to operate at those levels, so that we do take those services to people. And again, we have this business one-stop center where an exporter or an SME could go and they would know where the markets are and what is required to have access to those markets, and then gradually we start working towards those, Mr. Nguma.
So no answer, a very yes or no answer. Do you propose that we also need policy correction anywhere?
Yes.
Okay, so policy correction as well as institutional intervention is what our economist, Sanelus Bia, is proposing, in a way that we fix this low uptake of export scheme impact on our economy. We have our market analysis after the break.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into NetBank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. It's 9 minutes before 3 o'clock. We take a look at today's markets with Bongani Mabuza from NetBank. Bongani, very good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Still trending, Iran and Israel. If I may ask, the ceasefire brokered by President Donald Trump between Iran and Israel, is it still holding?
Good afternoon, Lulu. Good afternoon to our viewers. It's a pleasure to be here again on this last Wednesday of the month. As you rightfully say, what's really moving markets is still the Iran-Israel conflict, and there's a ceasefire that was announced. At some point yesterday, it seemed to be very fragile and on the brink of breaking, but as things stand right now, it seems to be holding. And that is really, as we go into the numbers, you'll see that's what's moving markets. That expectation that we might see the end of this conflict, at least for now. And so there's generally a risk-on sentiment back in markets.
Yeah. So what's the reaction from investors and also NATO leaders on this conflict?
Yeah. So let's get right into the numbers. If you look at, for instance, from a currencies perspective, there's generally a risk-on sentiment with the Langeni back on. In terms of appetite, so investors are back piling on appetite and exposure to emerging markets or risky
Unfortunately,
assets.
we still can't show our viewers the figures as yet. We're experiencing a technical glitch, but yeah, we'll get into the numbers shortly. But you can go on. Yeah.
So from all the asset classes, from an equities perspective, from a currencies perspective, from a commodities perspective, you see that the movements are signaling that there's a risk-on sentiment. From a currencies perspective, you see that investors are piling on to emerging market or risky assets, with the Langeni strengthening against major currencies. From an equities perspective, you saw equities gain strength. The Nasdaq 100 reached a record high on the back of this news, and the S&P 500 was also up about 1.1% on the back of this news. And this is signaling that investors are putting on risk again. Investors are putting on putting their money to assets where they expect to get a return. And from a commodities perspective, you see the prices in terms of commodities start to taper or to come down a bit. This is seen in the price of gold, which has come down from where it was about a week ago, and this is also seen in the price of oil. Oil, last week we were talking about oil being up above $80 a barrel. Right now, oil is down about just shy of 11% week on week. So oil saw a 2-day streak, which was downward, which was the most that's been seen since about 2022.
Okay, they're now visible, yeah.
That's
figures are visible.
Yeah,
okay.
100%. So we see oil being down about 1%. This is just a 1-day move, but the move from a week to date perspective is down about 11%, and this is really signaling that markets are expecting the ceasefire to hold. Markets are expecting a sort of a return to normalcy, if you'd call it that, as a result of of this ceasefire. So it's really positive for markets, and I think on the back of that, I think what that means is that there were now inflation fears, especially if the price of oil went up. As we saw, it went up by more than 10%. There are now a lot of inflation fears, and what that means for you and I as we go into the pump to fuel cars, or as we're boarding public transport and so on. And so with the price of oil being down about 11%, I think some of those fears are a little bit abated, which is good. And also on the back of that, also we're seeing that translate into other expectations, especially inflation expectations, which then drive interest rate expectations.
All right, as you were explaining that the S&P 500 is on the green zone today, let's quickly take a look at how it's performing today.
Yeah, 100%. The S&P 500, as we said, is up about 1.1%. The FTSE 100 is almost flat, with the JSE being down moderately. But we need to put these numbers into context, right? So the S&P 500, we did say that that's because of the risk-on sentiment that's back, with investors looking for where they can deploy their cash. As we saw, whenever there's periods of uncertainty, investors rush to safety. They rush to buy gold. They rush to buy the dollar. We saw a little bit of a reverse on that, with the hike in the S&P 500 really being led by technology stocks, and we saw other equities names go up. From a JSE perspective, we're slightly down, but this is, if you put that into context from where we were last week, again, there's a risk-on sentiment. The JSE All-Share Index is up week on week, so that's a real positive.
Okay, so before you conclude, let's quickly take a look at currencies today. The Lilangeni is trading at 17 Malangeni against the US dollar today. Not looking good. Yeah,
I think that it depends on which side of the trade you're on. But from an importer's perspective, that is a positive. Okay. We did see the Langeni go up at the height of the conflict to over 18 against the dollar. So we are now down about 25 cents if you look at it that way, which is positive. It means that if you're importing, it's now cheaper to buy goods. Okay. But if you're exporting, again, this means that you get less than you would, let's say, about the same time last week. This is the same is true against the euro. The pound against the pound, we're relatively flat. But I think what is also happening is that there's two things. One, interest rate expectations, as I mentioned a bit earlier. The chairman of the Federal Reserve, Mr. Jerome Powell, is in the second day of testifying in the U.S. Congress today. And there's expectations around interest rate cuts. Yesterday he maintained that we expect interest rates to be higher for longer, but markets at the moment don't seem to be buying that story and are pricing in a July interest rate cut, which is then built into the expectation for South Africa. Markets are expecting an interest rate cut of 25 basis points in July in South Africa, and markets are sort of expecting an interest rate cut of 25 basis points in Eswatini in July. But we will see. We are about a month away from that decision. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks to see how things develop.
All right. Thank you, Bongani, for that analysis. Well, there you have it. This was the final segment, Market Analysis with Bongani Mabuza. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our program today. You were watching Nedbank Business Watch. Do join us again next week, Wednesday at exactly 2 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.